Hello, hello. This is Irene with SaugaTalks. Hello, everybody. I am thankful for those who are joining us today, and most importantly, for those who follow SaugaTalks. So please, this is a shameless plug because you're on my show. I can do whatever I want here. So follow SaugaTalks, please, on LinkedIn. There are a bunch of wise people sharing their experience and insights there, and we work here really hard at SaugaTalks to deliver the best and brightest, the insights, the practical tips and advises what works, what doesn't work. All right. And we talk about artificial intelligence and automation and digital transformation and everything that comes with it. So please, please, please find us, Soga Talks on LinkedIn. Follow me on LinkedIn. All right. How about that? On Twitter and YouTube. All right. I'm done with that because today my guest is Leon Gordon. Leon, how are you?
Fantastic. Thank you, Irene. How about yourself?
I'm doing fabulously well, fabulously, because guess what? Data and AI and automation seems like it's on everyone's mind, at least wherever I look. Maybe I live in a bubble, okay? But in my bubble, this is what being discussed day and night because we never sleep, right? It's 24/7 business. So, Leon, yeah, why don't we start with you are a data analytics influencer? You're huge on LinkedIn, all right? And it's because of your experience, it's because of your knowledge and experience. So please share some with us today, all right? In the world of data, we hear about data since, I don't know, 2005, maybe. It became prevalent that companies should start paying attention to their data. But without much history, you know what's new in 2023, meaning that data strategies seem to be simple, but we know it's not.
Yeah, I firmly agree, and it's great that you've touched on some of the historical aspects of data there as well. So, I mean, data is nothing new, even down to AI. So, AI was first started to be coined around the 1950s, 1960s. These type of technologies. We've had business intelligence, we've had reporting in place, but like you say, for decades now. What we're noticing at the moment is that there's a boom around data. Why? Because there's so much of it. Everything that we interact with now either captures or transmits data. And also, we've seen the rise of what I would call well, there's no other way to call it apart from AI at the moment. So the likes of ChatGPT, large language models have started to take the forefront and really start to drive forward the tech. Now, I think that as we are technological professionals, we see this, we hear about it every day, we understand it, and we see what's around the corner, what's coming. But for me, the real tipping point with where we are at the moment is the fact of how the layman, the layperson, sees this type of technology as a one size fits all and a one stop shop to be able to get the truth in seconds from a computer, which obviously we know is not the case. But because it's being marketed in this way, I think that's really what's driving that mainstream adoption at the moment.
You know what? This is all good. And guess what? I asked ChatGPT about subject of our talk today. All right, I did that experiment, and you know what? It gave me very credible answer. Of course, like everything else, but I don't know what about your experience, but everything I read told by ChatGPT, I have to critically question like everything. Okay, I don't know how much energy I will have. Like every line kind of have to go through process. Okay, this is plausible. This is good. So that's kind of an interesting mental exercise. But those who are a little bit busier, maybe we will not have much time to really trust it, going forward right away. There gotta be some evolvement from what we're dealing with. But I guess for you, it will not be surprised that ChatGPT thinks that some ways that data and AI strategies can enable the businesses to win is enhancing customer insights. You mentioned that, right? Improved operational efficiency, all good. Predictive analytics, we'll talk about that. Innovation, data and AI can help companies to identify new market opportunities, right? And competitive advantage. So,
Yes.
any comments? Because this is common sense, but it's data up to what 2021 they say, right? So it's not the most recent.
So for ChatGPT 3, I believe the data's up to 2021, and it's what you've mentioned there. You said that this is what ChatGPT thinks, and this is like we say what the mainstream presume to be the case at the moment. Obviously, we all know that ChatGPT doesn't actually think. It uses a lot of algorithms in the background to form chains based on statistics. Okay. Now, what we find with organizations is that they see this type of technology, and it can be utilized in a plethora of ways, especially as data starts to grow. As humans, we can't digest, we can't dissolve, we can't do analytics on data of this size. So to use newer tech innovations like AI and ChatGPT to do this. Now, fundamentally, as you called out as well there, Irene, is that these systems are only as good as the data that is fed into them. Right? So we know that one of the restraining factors on ChatGPT 3, which will be removed with ChatGPT 4, we're led to believe, is that it only has data prior to 2021. Now, imagine this with a larger organization, and this is why we talk about data strategy, data governance, data quality, where you're getting your data from in terms of your sources, the security around that data, because all of this really meshes together into how the data looks for your organization, the type of predictive analytics and analytics you can actually resolve within your organization and present, knowing that it's factually correct as well, which is really key for any analytics.
We can talk for hours about ChatGPT alone, all right? Because now it seemed to be for me the repetitive topic with all my guests. Because guess what? We're all trying to situate ourselves, right? Is it really changing the world, putting it upside down? Is it a good tool? Is it something we need to put stop on? Which I'm not a proponent of. So, anyways, what's your take? I promise we're gonna move forward from ChatGPT, but just kind of what's your observation? How do you process all this, content information about it?
Yeah, of course. I think it's really interesting. We've seen some heavyweights in the industry, the likes of Bill Gates, come out and say this is the biggest technological revolution of all time, and technically, potentially it is. And for me, the reason behind it is more about the adoption as opposed to the technology. Okay, the fact that it was adopted by so many users in such a short space of time is amazing, but with that comes risks that we need to mitigate. Okay, there are biases built into ChatGPT that people have been able to bring to the forefront. We've also seen ChatGPT being used to hack forms of encryption. So I think it's the same as any tool. When used in the right hands, it can be absolutely amazing. When put into potentially the wrong hands, it can also be catastrophic. Now we're probably at a point within our society where we might not be ready for this type of technology at the scale that it's at the moment. But with that comes something that's been needed in particularly in the AI space and data as well for quite a significant amount of time, which is rules, regulations, and counters to the biases that we're seeing within these data sets as well. So hopefully this can be this can bring them to the forefront more quickly as well. But to kind of summarize that, I think it's a fantastic time to be in the data space and to be in the AI space, because we're only going to the sky's the limit as far as this is concerned.
Yep, good times we live in. Yeah. So some of the mature, responsible leaders, all right? So let's go back to the strategies, all right? Because I hear data and AI strategy should support business strategy. It's not a silver bullet to solve all the problems in one. So what's your take on it? Yeah, where to start? And most companies have this data strategy in place by now, I hope, right? But still, what kind of fine tuning they need to be thinking about?
Yes, indeed. And what I tend to find, especially when working with clients in this space, is that, like you say, organizations do have strategies in play that they're currently working towards. And some of those strategies have been delivered by some of the industry leading consultancies as well, right? But with this being the case, what I tend to find is that those strategies are not being executed. Now, there's plenty of reasons in behind this. Sometimes it's the case that they go through the strategy process and they're given a big 200-page, 300-page document to then go away and put into practice, which never happens. And there's other reasons which, like you mentioned, it's from my article, it's just that the data strategy doesn't align with the business goals. So there's no value to deliver this strategy outside of those that are consuming the data. Now, generally in my approach is I tend to liaise directly with key stakeholders across all of the verticals within an organization, from the executive level to and downwards, to understand, as you mentioned, what's really driving the business. Is it growth? Is it revenue generation? Is it new revenue streams, etc.? And then align with how they can start to utilize their existing data structures, whether it's reporting, forecasting, being more predictive, to start to make these data projects feed into that business value. Data is such a huge commodity at the moment. It's I've heard a saying before that data is the new oil, right? And a friend of mine and colleague Sean Helwig uses this anecdote quite well, and it's stuck with me. It's something that's resonated with me. Is that data is a new oil. That's fantastic. But if you had an oil spill in your garden and you didn't know what to do with it, and you had oil that was coming out and gushing everywhere, you wouldn't be looking to cash in on that because you would have no idea. It would be more of a nuisance for you in your garden than it would be something that's going to bring you delight and revenue. And that's the way that we look at these types of organizations that have data everywhere and they want to use the latest technologies. Is really, okay, let's refine that, let's take this back, let's align with the structure. So maybe put in place ways to cap that oil spill, structure an oil rig around it, and then be able to start to pull out that oil and refine it and sell it from there. And that's a good way in my mind to look at a data strategy.
Data is exciting part. You can get customer sites, you can build new business strategies just based on your data, right? So there's so much fun you can have as a business or technology person. But to me, again, if that data does not have actionable part of the business process or organization taking action, like you mentioned, all right, all the beautiful strategies and fabulous data sources, not gonna help. So how do you see this evolving? Because again, one thing to understand and to make a decision, another thing to really transform your business and drive it differently.
Oh, of course. And do you know what's worse than not making those decisions and not handling that data? It's making those decisions based on the wrong data. So for me, it's really about organizations getting that data foundation right. Okay. So again, we look at this like as if you're building a house. Okay. Without that foundational layer, if you're building your castle on sand, then your castle is going to be under sea very quickly. And it's very much the same when you try to build out a data strategy and start to be forward thinking. Okay. We really need to make sure that our house is in order, so to speak, and that foundation is really set. So some of this is, like we say, understanding where our data is coming from. Now, I've spoken to many organizations that can't tell me where their data comes from. There's so many data sources. Nobody has an inkling in terms of documenting and cataloging all of those data sources. And then what's that data being used for? Is it in the correct shape? Is the quality correct? Are we missing any data? Can we enhance that data with external data? These are the types of questions that we should be looking at answering in terms of our data strategy. It's not something that you're going to conceptualize and execute on all at once, but you can start to be forward thinking. Now, again, with what we've been through, unfortunately, over the past few years with COVID, it's a good example because we have what we would see as skewed data. Okay, that what happened with COVID, we hope, would be an anomaly, which means that anybody going to do year on year or prior year parallel period reporting will find that their numbers just won't make sense. Okay, so with that being the case, how far do we need to go back with data? Is it 3? Is it 5 years? And all of these questions need to be answered by key business stakeholders to start to build that lay of the land, so to speak, in terms of what the future state looks like.
In many, I would say, professional roles, okay, we hear for last how many years we are data-driven organization. Okay, this became a cliche, right? So it's nothing new news. Everyone at least pretending to be data driven. How about that, right? So can you give us some simple human answer in terms of data driven when you really deep into data trenches, okay, and you overwhelmed by all the reporting and all the what seemed to be good idea? Because if I back my opinions with data, it seemed to be I'm golden. All right. what's the kind of common sense here? Because as we know, data can support whatever argument you're trying to make. All right. So how about that for provocation here, Leon?
Yeah, of course. And I think well, my personal answer to this is why be data driven? Are you being data driven just for the sake of being data driven? Or again, realigning to that real business goal and business value? What are you looking to achieve as an organization over the next X amount of time period? Okay. And then as you mentioned, it's about understanding what data you currently have that supports that, how it can be utilized and harnessed to really reinforce that goal. And if you need to go elsewhere to get other data to enhance what you're looking to do. Now, a key point that you did mention is that data can be put together to support any kind of argument. So it's key here to ensure that your data set doesn't have biases in it, to go outside of yourself, to make sure that you're speaking to other individuals within the organization, to really sense check what that data is telling you. And then most importantly is to keep that data updated, refreshed. With machine learning, etc., we're all aware of terms like model drift. This is really not a set and forget strategy. One of the key ways I look at this as well is, for example, an organization that sells a product. They can have a set and forget methodology that they want to look at sales for these products in this area, for example, over X amount of time. Now, what happens when they introduce a new product or they move into a new area? Are they just going to negate that data and not take it into account? This is why we need to ensure that our data is fresh, robust, and fit for use.
Leon, yeah, you mentioned briefly governance. Okay, again, that's not the most sexy part of every business. Okay, because we hear governance, we hear processes and roles and management and responsibilities and compliance and all the good stuff out there, right? So, can you please summarize for us what's still the most pressing data governance, I would say, points today? All right, knowing that most companies kind of acquired the right capabilities, right technology, to handle data governance. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course. And to be honest, companies don't have to. So the thing with governance is understanding what you have to align to. So this could be a marketing department, it could be a sales department, this could be personal identifiable information. Understanding those standards that you need to govern your data against. It could be with internal information. So it could be HR information where salaries can't be shared between individuals, etc. By putting and framing those different constructs around your data, you can then speak to, if you have professionals in your organization, if you have external organizations that you work with, once you have these business governance rules in place, then you can build those parameters around those rules. Again, governance is something that changes, something that you would like to see fairly automated if it can be. So again, the classic scenario of this is leavers and joiners. Who ensures that that person's credentials are switched on or turned off, and what they have access to when either they leave an organization or they join an organization. Now, if you have an organization of 1, 2, maybe 3 people, this might not be quite a big manual task for you. If you have 10,000, 300,000 employees, then to do those manually becomes a behemoth task. So understanding what those frameworks that you need to adhere to from a governance perspective, documenting those, building those out, and more importantly, testing that governance is the key to this part of the strategy for me.
Leon, I know you published recently an article in Forbes, just covering all these critical points with discussing, make sure everyone's on board. This sounds easy again, and yet in complex organizations with multiple departments, cross functions, and just a lot of people involved, okay, in those decisions. So what are the best advice out there? How do you get everyone on board?
Irene, you're going to make me give away my secret sauce, aren't you? I'm going to try not to
Please,
give away
that's
all
what
of
we're
my
doing here. All right, just give us some, all right? And we're going to tease everyone. By the way, I encourage everyone to follow Leon on LinkedIn. He's huge over there, okay? So hopefully he's spilling his secret sauce little by little over there. And those who follow him can get the best. So yeah, Leon. So give us
Thank you. Very
something,
kind.
okay, to chew on. All right, not
Oh,
everything.
definitely. Very kind of you. So, what I will try and do is keep it at a high level, and once again, it really aligns with business goals and business value. Okay, so. And again, I'm going to try to gloss around a couple of aspects. But what happens with an organization is that you have, like we say, goals, targets to be hit, right? And you have, excuse me, you have everybody within an organization that wants to hit those goals. Okay, this could be from your executive team, your CEO, CFO, CIO, and then it transcends down to each of the functions below that. Okay, so if you have a data strategy that aligns with your business goals that have been agreed on by your executive level team, then you have everybody's buy-in in terms of what you're looking to achieve already. Okay, this then factors down to each of those individual departments and functions in terms of, okay, which projects take priority in achieving those goals. Okay, and that's as far as I'm going to go with that technique. But hopefully, our audience can start to see in terms of how that brings buy-in from the top down.
All right, all right. Because you know what? I can share my experiences here. So nod if you agree, or stay neutral. Fine by me. So from my experience, it's when people in the organization at all level, okay, if they feel the part of the journey, all right, if this is top-down initiative, all right, that people don't make sense of, they think it's just another transformation initiative being pushed on us. All right. I can guarantee Leonard or Wink, all right, if this is true in your experience. But to me, I've been part of many projects, large organizations transforming, not around data necessarily, but just adapting any kind of good initiative that sounds good on paper. All right. So what I've seen happening, if people don't feel that this is really for the better, okay, organization, myself as part of organization, the world, for the customers, all right, something, give people something, okay, and they will pay you back in 10 times fold, because frankly, I all believe in humans, okay, and we humans make things happen no matter what are best projects, what are best goals or whatever. But if you don't get people minds and hearts on board, that's what means to me being on board, Leon. Again, wink or stay neutral.
I can do both, so I can wink and I can nod. So yeah, that's the way to look at it in all honesty.
Security, okay, security, compliance, AI ethics, okay, some of the pressing points, and I know a lot of minds thinking about it now, at least in my LinkedIn feed, is all about data. It's all about AI ethics. It's all about who we become as humankind because of the data that we generate, all right? And some scary scenarios out there. I'm not going to be quiet about it, okay, that this is end of the world as we know it. So, Leon, is this the end of the world as we know it?
I'm going to say yes. And I'm going to say yes for a good reason, because with everything that we've gone through over the past few years, from an economic standpoint, from a health standpoint, obviously we've had a lot of change and disruption. Then yes, I feel that everything that's happened over that course of time has fed into where we are currently. We've seen shortages with wars. We've seen devastation across countries and regions. Supply has fallen off the face of the earth, so to speak, when the demand has risen. And I think that what's happened is we've already seen a technological shift in terms of infrastructure, remote working. Now, we haven't seen anything like this in history, okay? Organizations that told you previously you can never work from home, have that infrastructure in place. Nowadays, they spun it up overnight, okay? They had no choice. And this happened across industry, across countries, across the globe. Okay, so what happened at that point is we've already seen the change in technology across the globe. So it's already in place. Now, what happens with the type of technologies that we're talking about with ChatGPT and AI is it further pushes us forward in terms of where we're looking to go to and what we're looking to achieve. Like I say, I think that really the sky is the limit in terms of where we are at the moment with this type of technology, and the use cases continue to grow and grow and grow. There are other organizations out there that have been able to build ChatGPT free clones, so to speak, so large language models, utilizing less less data within their data sets, less compute as well, and still get very similar results. And that's only in a short space of time. Okay, we don't have ChatGPT 4, which is coming to the foray, and that there are so many other AI technologies out there as well in play, not just ChatGPT, that are really going to continue to push us forward. And like I say, it's going to be driven by mainstream adoption, which we're seeing at the highest rate again in history. So when you combine all of that together, as a logical person, I would say that yes, the world has changed beyond recognition to what it was 3 years ago.
Enormous excitement and opportunity, some fears, but still I am on side of opportunity. So why don't we talk a little bit about new data professions, okay? New opportunities in marketplace, because we will need more people to put all these strategies in place, to execute on them and drive innovation forward. So how do you think that's shifting, and what's new on the job market out there, you think?
Yeah, definitely. And I've also recently written about this on a Forbes expert panel as well, and shared some of my thoughts. Now, one of the key roles that I saw coming into the forefront is the Chief Data AI Officer, so the CDAIO. Again, currently doesn't exist to my understanding at the moment. So somebody to be in charge of these type of technologies, their use case, and how to make sure, as you mentioned, the strategy is in place to understand that they're not using biases, to make sure everybody has a seat at the table, as we've spoken about earlier. I think that where we are at the moment, AI will be used to enhance job roles, as opposed to, at least in the interim, as opposed to creating too many new ones. I think that we need to be in a position to be a bit more open in terms of adoption, but also more restrained in terms of rollout. Okay, so I know, for example, a lot of the newer AI technologies are being utilized in organizations. What people don't understand is you're actually feeding your organization's data into the large language model. So potentially you're breaking governance rules around the data. So I think that because everything became mainstream so quickly, you had this fear of missing out, this FOMO moment of everybody's talking about this technology. Why are we not using it? What happens is people don't understand or just forget the fact that what they're actually using within the tool. Okay, we have seen elements of this where people have lost their jobs just for using. For example, I know we're discussing ChatGPT, but there are other tools out there by feeding information from their organizations without a second thought. So, like we say, I think there needs to be an understanding, an education around how to use these technologies. And this is something I go into a lot of detail in terms of the data strategies that we deliver. It's all about taking organizations and introducing them in terms of how they can utilize newer technologies in a safe way that still brings business value to that organization.
Fantastic, fantastic, Leon. Thank you so very much for your time. These are precious, precious nuggets of wisdom. So in conclusion of the talk today, can I ask you for a few takeaways? Because we did cover high level, inspiration and AI, and of course, ChatGPT that we're trying to wrap our heads around, but going really into day-to-day data practices, data governance, data strategies, and of course, how it's going to affect all of us in what we do. So a few takeaways maybe.
Yeah, definitely. And like I say, I think that we should all be excited by these technologies that we're discussing and we're seeing in our feeds day in, day out. But I also think that we need to understand the ramifications and how we adopt these technologies and how they bring value to our business, but also how we need to put the foundations in play to make sure everybody has a seat at the table, and that we can turn those seats into valuable assets for the organization moving forward. when you start to do, as you mentioned, the not so glamorous elements of governance, security, what happens is you set your organization up for a very robust strategy that becomes very modular. So when newer technologies do come out, as is going to happen at immense speed over the course of the next few years and beyond, what we're seeing now is just the beginning. Then what that means is your organization is already prepared, ready, and able to adopt newer technologies at speed, and also get the benefits of doing so.
Thank you, Leon, so very much. I'm encouraging everyone one more time. Follow Leon, all right? He's gonna give you more wisdom than he was able to today. But I see there's a lot more besides what we mentioned. So, Leon, thank you so very much for your time today. And everybody, follow SaugaTalks. You're not gonna find
Exactly.
people like Leon anywhere else. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Irene. And let everybody follow SaugaTalks. It's been a pleasure to be with you today.